What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well and staying safe. So in this video I'm gonna talk about Locomotive Scroll, a library for smooth scrolling, and we're gonna combine that with ScrollTrigger of GSAP. So in one of my previous videos I showed you how you can build this scroll based animation using ScrollTrigger and also some Three.js stuff. I'll put a link to that video the top right corner of this video, and you can also find that video in my channel page. So we're gonna add Locomotive Scroll to this because right now I'm on a Mac like Chrome browser, and MacBook default scrolling when you're using like the trackpad or like the magic mouse, it's kind of smooth, but this is not the case for like Windows devices, or like other browsers maybe won't look as good as what you see here. So we're gonna actually add the Locomotive Scroll, and that way it will kind of look the same in all the browsers, and it will have the almost similar experience on all the OS and browsers as well. So let's get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is to go to the GitHub repo for the video that I just explained to you, the one that we did with Three.js and GSAP scroll animation. The main branch has the final code for that video, and that would be the starting code for this video. So you can go ahead and download the zip file, or you can like clone this and open the folder in your IDE of choice. I have VS Code as always, and so you should be able to see all these files and folders over here. First thing you're gonna do is actually in your terminal down here, as you are inside the project directory, the folder that you just downloaded and unzipped, you will do npm install, and I've already done that. After that you're gonna do npm start to start our dev server. I already have done that as well, and so once the dev server is started, you can go to localhost 3000. Under the Three.js, you will see the code, the web page that I just showed you. So same thing that we just saw with the scrolling there. We're gonna add the Locomotive Scroll to this page. So again, I put all the links that you see this in this video in the description box below. You can access the links there. This is the GitHub repo for Locomotive Scroll, and if you scroll down you'll see we need to install the library, and then we take it from there. So what I'm gonna do while my dev server is running, I'm gonna open another terminal here, and I'm gonna do npm space install space locomotive scroll space -- save. So that is what we have here, locomotive scroll, and then -- save to save it in our project directory. Package.json file, we should be able to see it right here. So we're good here, and I'm gonna close this terminal. I still have my other terminal running here. The next thing we need to do, there is also a CSS associated with this library, so you need to go and click on this, or like open it in a new window, and what you will do is just like copy the whole content of this like a file, and then you will add that to as a CSS styling file to your project. In the project basically structure that I have here, which is like a based on a Webpack boilerplate that I also have a video on that. You can go check that out. We need to add this file as a SCSS file to our project, and I'm going to add that under my shared folder. I just created a locomotive-scroll.scss file, and I've copied the whole thing here. So everything you saw here, I'm copying that over here, and you can save it. And again, for this structure, I need to add this locomotive-scroll to my entry point, which is my index.scss file here. So I'm going to add that over here as well. Save this index.scss file, and make sure if like me your server has stopped, you can also do npm start again, and start it. Probably while I was installing Locomotive Scroll, it stopped. So we can do that npm start for the dev server to start. And once we have this added to our index.scss file here, we can actually now go to our main JavaScript file for the 3JS file, which is under app, canvas, 3JS, and index.js right here. So what we are gonna do, we're gonna add import that library here. So locomotive scroll from locomotive-scroll, and then in my constructor here, I'm gonna define my locomotive scroll variable basically. So what I'm gonna call it is loco scroll. So this .loco scroll is a new locomotive scroll with all these properties here. And again, go look at the GitHub repo. You'll find all these things, all the properties that you can define basically here. The important part is that you need to define what element you want to have this locomotive scroll on. And as we know, or if you don't know, go check out the 3js.pog file. That's what I'm having here. That's the page here. And if you look at under content here, I have this 3js, which is the main class, the main div for all the scrolling. So that's also, you can see it over here. That's what I am assigning my scroll element to. So query selector, the 3js class, and then I'm going to save this one. So as soon as we do that, just take a look at what happens to my HTML class over here. We have now like a has scroll in it and has scroll smooth class added to my HTML. And we also have this C scroll bar added at the bottom of my basically page, just above the closing body tag. And if we look more closer, we do see some other elements added, like this data scroll section ID and section in view in the 3JS class that we just added the loco scroll to. The pin spacer, all this is from GSAP ScrollTrigger. So the loco scroll stuff is basically these three things I believe that I just told you. The has scroll in it up here, then definitely the C scroll bar span, and also the data scroll section here. So we have that added, and as soon as we do that, we might see something. We will see a change here that my scrolling is not working anymore. So I'm trying to scroll right now. I'm on trackpad trying to scroll. Nothing is happening. And since this scroll bar is actually a dark color, I'm going to change the background of my page here, so that's being defined under my shared.scss file. So I'm gonna just give it a like another color. Let's see, I'm gonna give it a bright color so we can see what's happening. I'm gonna save it over here, and then let's go back, make sure that change is happening. And yeah, so we have a bright color. So still nothing is happening, I can't scroll. And that's okay, we need to actually add more to our code. And when we are setting up our scroll animation over here, and we've done this in that original video where I explain all these scroll trigger stuff. What we need to do here is to add a local scroll on a scroll event here. And most of these things basically there is actually a kind of like a code pen that explains how you can connect your scroll trigger with Locomotive Scroll. So I'm following this code pen here. I also put a link to this one as well in the description box below this video. So all I'm doing is kind of like adding similar code to my code here, just making small changes to make sure it works with the code structure that I have over here. And then after that, on scroll event that we defined for the local scroll, we need to add a scroller proxy to our scroll trigger. And again, that's all what we see here. Here in this page, they explain what scroll proxy is. And basically kind of like the idea is to connecting these two scrollers to each other. And of course, we need to add this event listener on a scroll trigger. When the refresh happens on a scroll trigger, we want to also update our locomotive scroll, and I'm defining like a function here, and I'm gonna add that over here. So basically it's just like adding the update to our local scroll here. So we're updating our local scroll as our scroll trigger is being refreshed. And so if we save this right now at this moment and again go back to our code, we still do see all those new classes being added here. See scroll bar here. We don't see the thing like actually being added here, the scroll bar thumb, which is that small like scroll bar that you would see here. And the scrolling still is not working. I'm doing that, it's not working. The key here is that in our update function, which we have down here, we need to refresh our scroll trigger. And you can do that by just basically doing this simple code here. And this update function is basically again part of our boilerplate structure that we have. And you can go check that out as well. But this is basically being called every frame animation that we have. So I can actually real quick show you under app-index.js this update function that we have here. We're just doing request animation frame, and then this is being called every frame. So I'm gonna save it here, and let's see now we can see any progress or not. So still I see my classes being added, and now if I highlight this one, you can see that it's showing something. I start scrolling, you can actually see that scroll bar there. Now since we have a specific CSS for this should look the same in like Windows or Mac. This should replace the default scroll bar for the OS since it has a specific CSS assigned to it. And that's basically what we had in our like CSS file that we copied from their GitHub repo. So it is working, but there is a problem, as you saw at the beginning here. As I'm scrolling, these like text, this text here is supposed to not move up, just all the animation is supposed to happen in place, which is not happening right now. And that brings us to a very key change that we need to also add to this code that we already have. So in our scroll trigger functions here, like our GSAP timeline, our scroll triggers, which basically we have two of them, two timelines, we need to add a scroller property to each of them, and we need to define that our scroller property is the big class that we have, the Three.js class, that we are also doing the locomotive scroll on that. So if you remember here in this loco scroll, we have defined our element is Three.js. And by the way, we had the same thing for a scroller proxy of ScrollTrigger here, and also for the pin type here. So keep in mind these are also connected to the basically big div that we are doing the scrolling inside. And so we add this scroller property to our scroll trigger. And now if I save it and go back to our localhost 3000, you should be able to see that everything is working fine. So you see, like, as I scroll, we have these animations happening in place as it was happening previously, and the rest of it is also still working fine. So it's all good here. And there's one last piece that I actually had to kind of like look more into and make sure that I'm not getting any issues. And that's basically when you are going back to another page, this C scroll bar and the locomotive scroll may still stay on the page. And that's because the structure that we have right now is a single page kind of application that we have using like vanilla JavaScript. I'm not using React or any other front end like library like React or Vue or other ones. So it's vanilla JavaScript. But if you pay attention here, if I go back to my home page, as I go to other pages like this Three.js, we are not refreshing the page or anything. So this is a single page application. And if I go back now, you keep your eyes on the C scroll bar here. If I go back, that scroll bar is not going to go away. So that's not part of our application. And if I go to other pages, it's going to be there. And that becomes problematic if you have scrolling in other pages, but you don't really want to have your loco scroll there. And so in order to get rid of that, first of all, I'm gonna add a little bit of scrolling to this home page, because right now you can't scroll it, so you might not see what I actually mean. So in my home SCSS file here, I'm going to add a height of 200 viewport height. And that's basically under styles, pages, home. And if I save that over here, I'm now going to be able to scroll. So let's see, let's here. So I have my default scroll bar. This is a Mac laptop, so my default Mac scroll bar here. It's all good. I go to Three.js. And that's where we add the C scroll bar and all the loco scroll stuff, and it's all working fine. I have my loco scroll over here. And then if I go back, or if I had another link to another page of my website here, since it's a single page application, this is not going to automatically remove the C scroll bar. So now if I try and scroll, it's not scrolling. Remember, I added 200 viewport height. It's not scrolling anymore. So I need to get rid of my locomotive scroll here as I move to another pages. And that can be done actually not that hard. It's kind of easy. So in our destroy function that we have here, and again, this is part of the Webpack boilerplate and Three.js boilerplate structure that we have here. And the destroy function is called when I am going away from one page. So it's gonna destroy like the Three.js objects in the page, and then also we need to get rid of the C scroll bar, which is this element, and also we need to destroy the loco scroll and stop it. So these two, you can also find more information about these two in the Locomotive Scroll, basically their documentation here. And yeah, so we have destroy here, we have stop here, and then I'm using jQuery here to remove my elements. So I'm gonna add the jQuery to my basically index.pog file, which is my entry point for all my pog files. And also I define my script, the main JavaScript script here. So I'm gonna add jQuery here. You can do I don't know, you can do vanilla JavaScript like parent node dot remove child, basically just getting rid of this element. So that's up to you. I'm just using jQuery right now because that's easy. Anyways, so now I am in my home page, and again, we added these to destroy as we go move away from the Three.js page. Not right now. Right now we're going in Three.js, so everything is created, scroll bar is created, our 3D object is created, our scroll loco scroll is working fine. And now if I go back, now keep looking at the C scroll bar. So that's gone now, the scroll bar is gone, and like all the other related stuff to scroll loco scroll, since we destroyed and stopped it, it's gone. And now if I scroll, you can see it's working, and I have my default scroll bar here as well. So this is useful when you're using like a single page application, but if it's not a single page application, it's gonna refresh the page when you go to another pages, so and reload it, so everything is gonna go away anyways. But this is crucial when you are not doing you are doing a single page application, and that's the case for my portfolio website as well. So if you look at my portfolio website, this is the exact technique that I'm using in the about page, because this is the page that I'm doing loco scroll, and I have like a similar thing as you see here, as you saw in our code. So here I'm doing loco scroll, but when I move away, for example, to go to portfolio or any other page, I am destroying my loco scroll. And so that's basically all you need to make sure that your locomotive scroll works fine with your GSAP ScrollTrigger. And the idea that I just like explain, like how you can implement this, you can use it in any other application that you have or you're trying to build. So if you found this video helpful, please make sure to like the video, and don't forget to also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and also turn the notification bell on. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you all in the next video. Thank you.